Alexander's empire collapsed within decades. Caesar's Rome, assassinated in civil war. Napoleon's Europe, exiled and forgotten. But what if I told you 4 African queens built something that outlasted them all? One forced Rome itself to negotiate as an equal. Another created a legend so powerful it shaped 3 world religions. A third built walls that still stand after 500 years. Their names were the Queen of Sheba, Amanirenas, Amina, and Eleni. This is the story of 4 remarkable queens who understood something the great male conquerors never did. That the greatest victories are won not on battlefields, but in the realm of memory, diplomacy, and lasting institutions. One became a legend, so powerful it shaped 3 world religions. One forced the mighty Roman Empire to negotiate as an equal. One built trade networks and fortifications that endure to this day. One revolutionized international diplomacy and kept her kingdom independent for centuries. Subscribe now, because you're about to discover how much these queens achieved. While European history celebrates conquerors whose empires collapsed within decades, Africa was producing queens whose achievements have stood the test of time. These weren't ceremonial rulers sitting on golden thrones. These were strategic masterminds who understood that lasting power comes not from conquest, but from building something greater than yourself. The ancient world knew their names. Roman emperors treated them as equals. Biblical and Islamic traditions preserved their stories. Medieval chronicles recorded their innovations, but modern history often overlooks their remarkable achievements. Until now. First, the Queen of Sheba, known in Ethiopian tradition as Queen Makeda. Now, here's what we know from history versus legend. The biblical and Islamic accounts of a powerful queen from the south who visited King Solomon are consistent across multiple ancient sources. Archaeological evidence confirms that the Kingdom of Sheba, modern-day Yemen and Ethiopia, was indeed a major trading power controlling the incense and spice routes. What makes her story remarkable isn't just the legend, it's the strategy behind it. The biblical account tells us she traveled over 1,000 miles to meet Solomon, bringing gold, spices, and precious stones. But this wasn't a humble pilgrimage. This was sophisticated diplomacy. Ancient kingdoms didn't send rulers on 1,000-mile journeys for casual visits. This was a high-stakes diplomatic summit between 2 major powers negotiating trade agreements. Ethiopian chronicles preserve detailed traditions of Queen Makeda's reign, including her diplomatic innovations and the establishment of trade protocols that enriched her kingdom for generations. But here's her masterstroke. Whether through intentional strategy or fortunate circumstance, she ensured that her story would be remembered for over 3,000 years. The Queen of Sheba appears in the Hebrew Bible, the Christian New Testament, the Islamic Quran, and Ethiopian royal chronicles. Her story has been told in churches, mosques, and palaces across 3 continents. That's not just successful diplomacy. That's achieving immortality through strategic storytelling. She conquered something no military campaign ever could. She conquered memory itself. But if the Queen of Sheba mastered the art of legendary diplomacy, our next queen did something even bolder. She made Rome itself bow down. Next, Kandake Amanirenas of Kush. And here we move from legend to documented history. Candace was a title meaning Queen Mother in the Kingdom of Kush, and Amanirenas ruled from approximately 40 to 10 BCE. Roman historians, including Strabo and Pliny, recorded her remarkable confrontation with the Roman Empire. In 25 BCE, Roman forces under Prefect Petronius attacked Nubian territories. This was Rome at its peak, the same empire that had conquered Gaul, Egypt, and much of the known world. Amanirenas didn't just defend, she counterattacked with devastating effectiveness. Her forces captured 3 Roman-held cities, Sieni, Philae, and Elephantine. Roman prisoners were taken, military standards seized, and bronze statues of Caesar Augustus were toppled and dragged away as trophies. But here's what makes Amanirenas a strategic genius rather than just a successful warrior. Instead of executing Roman prisoners, she used them as diplomatic leverage. The war lasted 3 years, and when Roman historians describe the negotiations, they reveal something extraordinary. Rome, the empire that demanded tribute from conquered peoples, agreed to negotiate with Amanirenas as an equal sovereign. The Treaty of Samos in 21 BCE established terms that were remarkable for their time. Rome withdrew from Kushite territory, exempted Kush from tribute payments, and returned prisoners and captured goods. For the next 300 years, Romans never again attempted to conquer Kush. One queen had taught an empire to respect African sovereignty. Think about that for a moment. While Hannibal is famous for almost defeating Rome, Amanirenas actually did defeat them and got a treaty as proof. This isn't legend, it's documented Roman history. Amanirenas proved that even the mightiest empires can be forced to negotiate when faced with determined, strategic resistance. But if Amanirenas conquered through warfare, our next queen built something even more lasting. Infrastructure that still stands today. Queen Amina of Zaria represents one of the most celebrated figures in Hausa oral tradition, ruling sometime between the 15th and 16th centuries. Now, let's be clear about our sources. Much of what we know about Queen Amina comes from oral traditions passed down through centuries, later recorded in chronicles like the Kano Chronicle. While specific details may be embellished through retelling, the historical consensus supports her existence and her significant impact on West African politics and trade. What we can verify through archaeological and historical evidence: Amina expanded the territory of Zaria, modern-day Zaria, through both military campaigns and strategic alliances. Her conquests extended trade routes from the Sahara to the Atlantic coast, connecting salt mines in the north with kola nut forests in the south. Her most lasting legacy? The fortification walls she built around conquered cities, walls that became known throughout the region as Ganuwar Amina, or Amina's Walls. Some of these fortifications still stand today, over 400 years later. Archaeological surveys have confirmed the existence of these defensive walls across northern Nigeria, testament to organized military engineering on a massive scale. But Amina wasn't just a conqueror, she was an economic revolutionary. The trade networks she established transformed the economic landscape of West Africa. Goods flowed along routes she secured: salt, gold, textiles, leather goods, and agricultural products. Her innovations included training highly effective cavalry units and establishing standardized weights and measures across her territories, crucial for long-distance trade. Whether she truly never lost a battle in 34 years, as oral tradition claims, we cannot verify. But we can verify this: her name is still spoken with reverence across northern Nigeria. Streets, schools, and institutions bear her name. Her walls still stand. Pause and think about this. How many 15th century rulers built anything that tourists can visit today? Queen Amina did. That's not just military success, that's institutional legacy. She built things that lasted. But if Amina built with stone and mortar, our final queen built something even more sophisticated: diplomatic networks that spanned continents. Finally, Empress Eleni of Ethiopia. And here, we have extensive documentary evidence of her remarkable 45-year influence on Ethiopian politics. Eleni served as regent and power behind the throne from approximately 1507 to 1522, during one of the most turbulent periods in Ethiopian history. What makes her extraordinary isn't military conquest. It's diplomatic innovation on a global scale. Eleni became one of the first African rulers to establish formal diplomatic relations with European powers. Portuguese records show that Ethiopian envoys were already negotiating in Lisbon, while other African kingdoms remained unaware of European expansion. Her correspondence with European monarchs survives in Portuguese and Vatican archives. These letters reveal a ruler writing as one sovereign to another. No deference, no subordination. Helena, Queen of Ethiopia, to Manuel, King of Portugal, equal to equal. But Eleni's masterpiece was managing a succession crisis that could have destroyed Ethiopia. When her young grandson became emperor, various regional lords threatened civil war. For 15 years, she maintained stability through careful diplomacy, strategic marriages, and political wisdom that kept the empire intact. Her administrative innovations included establishing diplomatic protocols that lasted for centuries and creating systems that strengthened central imperial authority while respecting regional autonomy. Most remarkably, her diplomatic foresight helped maintain Ethiopian independence during the early period of European expansion in Africa, when other kingdoms were falling under foreign influence. The diplomatic relationships she established contributed to Ethiopia remaining one of only 2 African nations never fully colonized by European powers. Let that sink in. While European powers were carving up Africa in the 19th century, Ethiopia remained free partly because of diplomatic foundations this queen laid in the 16th century. That's not military genius. That's political genius of the highest order. What can we learn from these remarkable women? The Queen of Sheba showed us that the greatest victories are won in the realm of memory and meaning, that a well-crafted legacy can achieve immortality. Amanirenas demonstrated that even the mightiest empires can be forced to respect those who refuse to bow, that strategic resistance can achieve what submission never could. Amina proved that building lasting infrastructure and institutions creates more enduring power than temporary military victories. Eleni showed us that wisdom and diplomacy can achieve what armies cannot, that preventing wars through skillful negotiation is often greater than winning them. Together, they proved that true leadership isn't about domination. It's about building something that elevates your people and outlasts your own lifetime. They showed that the greatest rulers are remembered not for what they destroyed, but for what they created. Most importantly, they demonstrated that Africa has always produced leaders whose vision, wisdom, and achievements rival any in human history. These weren't just queens, they were architects of lasting legacies. They were builders of institutions. They were creators of diplomatic innovations that changed how power works. The Queen of Sheba, Kandake Amanirenas, Queen Amina, and Empress Eleni, 4 names that belong alongside any discussion of history's most effective leaders. That's the power of true leadership. It creates something that outlasts empires. If these incredible stories inspired you to think differently about power and legacy, hit that subscribe button. Comment below, which queen's strategy do you think is most relevant for leaders today? And if you want more stories like this, check out our video on Queen Nzinga of Angola. She used both warfare and diplomacy to keep the Portuguese Empire in check for nearly 4 decades. It's linked in the description and in our African Queens playlist. Hit that notification bell, because African history is full of leaders who understood that the greatest conquest is not of territory, but of time itself.